Good evening and welcome to tonight's virtual general election forum featuring candidates for City of Langley Council members, South Whidbey School Board positions, and South Whidbey Fire EMS Commissioners. We have a lot of ground to cover, so I'll keep my remarks as brief as possible. This forum is being co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Whidbey Island and Snow Isle Libraries. Our thanks to Snow Isle for aiding in the publicity of these events, including the production of the eye-catching posters. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation in government. The League works to increase understanding of major political or public policies and influences public policy through education and advocacy. We endeavor to make democracy work by offering events like this, by registering voters, and much more. If you're interested in our work, join us. You can go to our website and become a member today. The library's mission is to provide resources to the community for lifelong learning. Our partnership enables us to pool our resources to provide neutral and unbiased information to the public. Snow Isle would like you to know that they provide no contact pickup of physical materials at your local library and a wide variety of online resources, including programs and downloadable print and audiobooks. To learn more about their services and current COVID-19 protocols, you can visit their website. My name is Carla Grau-Egerton. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, and I will be your moderator this evening. My fellow panelist is Joanne Rooms, timekeeper. Our local president, Carol Pulliam, is our Zoom platform manager. Candidates will be introduced in the order they will appear on the voters' ballot. Tonight's forum consists of 3 segments. The first will feature the candidates for South Whidbey Fire EMS Commissioner, position 3. The second segment will feature the candidates for City of Langley Council member, position 1, 2, and 5. The third segment will feature candidates for South Whidbey School Board, position 2, 4, and 5. The format for this evening will be standard Q&A. The questions have been selected in advance by our forum committee from those submitted to us by League members and the public. None of the questions have been disclosed to the candidates prior to the opening of this forum. The moderator will pose all the questions. Each candidate will have an opportunity to answer all questions. The order of the candidates in respect to questions has been determined in advance by the League organizers to ensure a random and fair sequence. The first responder to a question will have 90 seconds to answer. The remaining candidates will have 60 seconds to answer. The timekeeper will signal when 15 seconds remain by showing a yellow card and a red card when time is up. Candidates will not pose questions of each other or engage in personal attacks of other candidates during their responses. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. For further information about the candidates and to see their responses to a different set of questions, visit the League of Women Voters of Washington's website at www.vote411.org. This forum is being recorded by the League. A link for viewing it will be posted to our website. No other recording is permitted. The League adheres strictly to the requirements of the FCC regarding use of recordings. Any use of the recording requires approval by the League of Women Voters Whidbey Island, and then with the caveat that it must be broadcast in its entirety. No candidate is allowed to edit or use the footage for campaign purposes. We will begin the questions for the candidates for South Whidbey Fire EMS Commissioner position 3. When they have concluded, With their closing statements, we will transition to the candidates for City of Langley Council members. And when they have concluded with their closing statements, we will transition to the candidates for South Whidbey School Board positions. So let's begin. The South Whidbey Fire EMS District provides fire prevention, firefighting, and emergency medical response services to 66 square miles on South Whidbey Island. Fire district commissioners establish goals, levels of service, and funding for the fire district. They approve budgets and tax levies, establish policies, and approve operational procedures. They employ the district's fire chief and key employees, and through the chief, run the business of the district. Commissioners serve 6-year terms. The candidates for position 3, Commissioner position 3, are Savannah Erickson and Jim Towers. And we will begin with question 1. The question will go first to Savannah Erickson. What skill sets best equip a person to be an effective South Whidbey Fire EMS Commissioner?
Good evening. So for this first question, what skills best equip a person to be an effective South Whidbey Fire EMS Commissioner? I would like to point to some of my own skills, which are that I come from an emergency management background and I'm familiar with what it takes to respond effectively to disasters. And I believe that on a, excuse me, I'm a little bit nervous and I wasn't expecting to go first. So the skill sets that best equip a person to be effective as a South Whidbey Fire Commissioner are an excellent communicator, somebody who's well committed to the community, somebody who's present, somebody who represents the taxpayers, somebody who is familiar with what the fire department and EMS members do, somebody who wants to serve the community effectively, and sorry, this is not how I wanted to present myself. And I would confess that I didn't prepare for this particular question, and I'm a little bit nervous. So forgive me for being human. So
it's okay. Your time is up now.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jim Towers.
I think one of the most important skill sets is the ability to listen and the ability to work with people to reach a team consensus. The board is a 3-man board, and it's important that everyone can work together to come up with the very best solutions for the district. Second skill set is understanding how the board works and what it does. I've had quite a bit of experience over the years with management teams and boards for various companies that I've worked for, and I'm a board member currently for Elliott Bay Design Group that I work for. I think it's very important that one has a cooperative style rather than a divisive style. That's the way we're going to reach best results as a group, and it's very much a group exercise. The commissioner is the link between the taxpayer and the fire department. Got to listen to both sides.
Thank you. We will move on to question number 2. What is the most important problem or issue South Whidbey Fire EMS faces, And what would you do to address it? And this time we'll start with Jim Towers.
I think the most important issue that we've got right now is that we are losing a lot of our volunteer force for a variety of reasons. And the plans for the department have called for a mixed paid and volunteer force. And it's important that we be able to build our volunteer force up. I think one of the most key aspects of this is that we are about to change chief. Chief Palmer retires in March, end of March. And the new chief needs to be someone who can work well with both a paid and a volunteer department. Needs to be a strong leader that can pull everyone together and, as I say, develop our volunteer force back while still addressing the needs of our paid firefighters.
Thank you. Savannah Erickson, your turn.
Okay. I do concur that there is an issue with the loss of volunteer firefighters within the department. That is in part due to the fact that our lives and demands have changed over time, and that isn't something that we can control as a department or on the Board of Commissioners. But internally, I do believe that there is room to improve. I have spoken with members who have chosen to depart for various reasons, but one of the reasons that I've heard over time is that they haven't felt well managed, well communicated with, and I do believe that that's an area that the department needs to improve upon, not only internal communication, but external communication. One of the analogies I like to make is that self-care is very important, and when I take care of myself, I know I do well, and I believe that if we take care of our department, then we can thrive as a fire and EMS department for the community.
Thank you. We'll go now to question number 3. As climate change causes higher summer temperatures and longer drought seasons, what preemptive measures can South Whidbey Fire EMS take to prepare and protect our community? And this time the question goes to Savannah Erickson first.
Okay, so we do live in an area that has a lot of vegetation. We have had the benefit of being a fairly moist area, but over time, within the last 12 years, we've definitely seen a decline in the moisture that helps keep the fire risk at bay. So that is something that is a concern. I have actually been talking with the consultant who is looking to find our next fire chief and have emphasized that this is something that's important that we focus on, that we make sure that the person who comes in has some strategies for how to address climate change moving forward in terms of how they affect our community and how they affect our level of preparedness and safety for potential fire hazards within our community. I know it's something that is on the minds of our voters. I've heard from other people who are also concerned about this. We did recently receive a letter from our insurance company, my husband and I, that indicated they're looking at bringing in private firefighting forces in the event of a wildfire. So it's something that they're thinking about, and it's definitely, we need to prepare and make sure that we have the resources in place to protect ourselves. Another thing that I would strongly encourage is personal preparedness. And that includes defensive space, so making sure that your gutters are clear, that you don't have trees that are overhanging your roof and things like that. So we're all in this together.
Thank you. Jim Towers, the question goes to you.
I think one thing that we can do is preemptive. We need to improve our education of the public as to the work that they can do ahead of a fire to make certain that their home is as well protected as it possibly can be, and what to do personally in the event of a wildfire. The other thing is for our firefighters, a lot of training and a lot of focus on wildland urban interface firefighting, which is very different from structure firefighting. And I think we need to focus on that a lot in the coming years. It's going to be very important as time goes by.
Thank you. We move to question number 4. What changes would you like to see in the way South Whidbey Fire EMS addresses its strategic planning and budget? And this time the question goes to Jim Towers first.
The strategic planning is very often done by outside consultants in conjunction with the firefighters and the community. I think it's important for the community to become more involved in the strategic planning for future years. I think we need to plan our budgets, not just on what we expect, but what we maybe don't expect too. You know, if we're unable to rebuild our volunteer force, then we need to look carefully at what our budget would need to be for an all-paid force and how we can look at this carefully and determine the levels of service and the costs that come with them. The two have to balance to make it work. So it's a two-way street. And I think we need to have both optimistic plans, and we also need to have plans that will deal with continued or even increased growth from what we're seeing now.
Thank you. The question goes now to Savannah Erickson.
Okay. So in terms of changes in how we address our strategic planning, I've looked at the most recent one, and I feel like some of the things are on course, but there are also other aspects that could use some improvement. So in terms of our strategy of what do we want to do, we have our mission, which is to encourage, make sure that we are performing our services, that we are performing public outreach and education, and then we have our budget. So the budget overall right now has continued to increase. That has been a result of building a new fire department, as well as bringing in full-time employees to serve the needs of the community, because the volunteer firefighters, we needed a more robust response. So we're looking at how do we make sure that we provide the best services possible for our community? How do we make sure that the people who live here have what they need? And so do our members of the department.
Thank you. So now it is time for closing statements. And we will go first with Savannah Erickson.
Thank you very much for your time and attention this evening. I would like to let everybody know a little bit more about myself, which is that I served for 13 years with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I traveled across the country providing disaster response to places like Alaska, to Puerto Rico, to Florida. And I believe that this broad experience really helps give me some local perspective in terms of how other communities have responded to their challenges in extreme catastrophic times. And that if we look at how our community responds to fire and EMS needs, my experience speaks really well to how we can work together to ensure that we provide equitable representation for our members of our district, as well as our taxpayers, that we have ethical leadership, and that we embrace change for the future. The people who have been serving so far have a similar look and feel, and I bring some diversity to the board if you choose to vote for me, and I do hope that you will. I'm a small business owner and a community member of South Whidbey, and I love the space and I love the people that live there. And because of my experience, I feel that we have the opportunity to really come together and we have an opportunity to ensure that the people who worked within our department have the resources that they need while also providing the fire and EMS services to ensure that we have a safe, protected, healthy community.
Thank you. Jim Towers, a 2-minute closing statement.
Again, thank you very much for inviting us this evening. I have a 35 years of experience with South Whidbey Fire EMS, finishing up as a station captain for stations 3-4 and 3-5. I know the fire department well, and I understand its inner workings. And at a time when both board members who had prior fire service experience are leaving, I would bring fire service experience back into the board. And I don't think it should be an all ex-firefighter board, but I do think it's valuable to have at least one ex-firefighter on the board so that there's a good understanding of the day-to-day operations of it. I've lived in the community for 35 years. My daughters both went through college here. We've lived in the community, same house for 35 years. Love South Whidbey and want to see it do well. Immediately after the new commissioner takes their position, we're going to be faced with the decision on a new chief to replace Chief Palmer when he retires. And I think I have a good understanding of, having served under 4 different fire chiefs, of what we're going to need. I too have had a little bit of involvement in major disasters, not to the extent that Savannah has, but I spent 4 months in Panama City on salvage work for a client immediately after Hurricane Michael. So I've seen a community going through the horrors of things, and I hope everyone will vote for me.
Time.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank both Savannah Erickson and Jim Towers for participating in this forum and helping to inform the voters. Now we will proceed with our Q&A for the candidates for City of Langley Council members, positions 1, 2, and 5. Langley City Council. The City of Langley has a mayor-council form of government. The City Council sets policy with the mayor responsible for policy implementation and overseeing the daily operations of the city. The council enacts ordinances and resolutions, holds public hearings, approves development plans, receives citizen suggestions and complaints, authorizes payment of city funds, approves contracts, creates committees and boards to assist in the operation of city government, and much more. 5 council members are elected at large to staggered 4-year terms. For this election, voters should know that Gail Fleming is participating in this evening's forum as a write-in candidate for council member position 5. And after being appointed mayor of Langley, Scott Chaplin attempted to withdraw as candidate for the position 5, but it was too late to have his name removed from the voters' pamphlet and ballot. He is not participating in this evening's forum. So with that being said, we will begin with the questions for the candidates. Question number 1. What are the 2 most important issues or problems facing the city of Langley, and how would you address them? The question goes first to Carolyn Bobus. Unmute, please.
There you go. Thank you. There are 2 issues and they're intertwined. One is affordable housing, and the other is the ability to live and work in Langley. And I speak from experience to the second part. I am currently working for the City of Seattle in the Department of Neighborhoods as an Administrative Specialist 3. And I'm being paid $30 an hour. That is never going to happen in Langley, and I know it. However, that salary allows me to continue to live in Langley. The other issue is affordable housing. When we moved to Langley in 2012, we returned from Greece. I'm married to a Greek American. We returned from Greece and rented our current apartment in Langley Village for $700 a month. It is now much more than that. And it's going to become more expensive, and it's getting more expensive. How would I address these issues? I think, and looking at how other cities do it, I think we have to develop the infrastructure that will encourage developers to build affordable housing. And if we're going to make it easier for them to build that housing, I believe that we have to craft memorandums of agreement, MOAs, that lay out exactly what we expect from them, and
Time.
exactly what they can expect from us.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Mhm.
The next person to answer the question will be Rhonda Salerno. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. Sorry about that. There are 3 really, but I will try to pick 2. Carolyn spoke about affordable housing. I think the climate crisis is the biggest thing facing all of us everywhere. And I was at a meeting today, and it's so exciting to have a group working on really big issues for our climate crisis locally. And you're going to see big changes come out of this committee. And I know that in many little ways, we can make a big difference and set an example for other cities around the state and the country. The other one I think is, and I know Carolyn would have spoke to this, but we only get a chance for 2. So I'm not going to speak on the affordable housing, because it's clear I am working on affordable housing since I started the affordable housing ad hoc group and have been working really hard on that. But I think racial equity and class equity in our city is really important. We want a city of people who are of all financial, economic background and
Time.
Time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question is Tony Gill.
Well, I would start by thanking you for doing this forum. I think it's going to be very important for this election. I understand what the prior candidates have said about this question, and my 2 things are environment and infrastructure. I think we've been dealing with a water problem here in Langley that the council needs to face. We need to face as citizens, and we need to have some way to control our water. We need to have some way to control our sewage. I think sewage is a pollution, so we're right in the environment. The worst thing that happens, and it happens in late spring is we get puddles, large puddles, and they are stagnant. And we start breeding mosquitoes and whatever else that brings. But I think we can address all that just like we can address the other 4 or 5 things we'll probably talk about before this evening's over. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question will be Kay Kennewick.
Hello, I'm Kay Kennewick, and I believe communication is really important, that the city lets the citizens and businesses of Langley know what's going on with what is done during the meetings, when the streets are being fixed, when the water mains are being fixed, and the like. I'm just, having lived there for 5 years, there's just this disconnect of knowing what's going on and when it is going on. So I would like the council to come up other ways of letting the citizens in Langley know what's going on. If it's either by the emails or putting up posters in different parts of the town.
Okay, thank you very much.
And
And
the other thing also is the affordable housing, which is really important. And letting rentals. And I would like, though, that the council think of
I'm
different
sorry.
ways.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Oh, thank you. I didn't see the red. I didn't see the red
There it
Do you
is.
see it now?
up. No, not at all. I see nothing. I just see your face.
Well,
Oh.
can you see the timekeeper?
Nope. I see nothing, just you.
You have to scroll up to Joanne Romes. She's the timekeeper. So scroll up and watch Joanne for that.
Okay.
Oh, now she's there.
There you
Okay,
go.
I can change it to speaker view, and I hope that you can see me, but now I can't see whether my time signals are happening myself. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, the last person to answer this question is Gail Fleming.
And I also thank the league for putting this forum on. I really appreciate all you do for us as a community. So yes, 2 most important things that I see are affordable housing, and what I would do about it is work towards inclusionary zoning, which would mandate that developers set aside a certain percentage of the units that they build that are actually and hopefully permanently affordable. So that's one big issue, and one of the things that I would work towards solving it. And the other thing I'm really care about and concerned about is the environment, which is related to change. And one of the things that has not happened very much in this town is enforcement of the critical areas ordinances. So oftentimes, or not often, but it has happened that things get built in wetlands, which are right above the very unstable bluffs. And now I will stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 60 seconds just go by in a flash. We're going to move on to question number 2. What strategies can the City of Langley's government use to implement its policies that encourage affordable housing? And this time we're going to start with Rhonda Salerno.
All right. Well, I'm going to take up everybody else's answers because I work on the Planning Advisory Board. I'm the chair, and I started the ad hoc committee for affordable housing, and we've put on 2 community meetings. I hope you will all go to the website and watch those, because we have looked at what our challenges are and the strategies and tools that we can implement as a city. And so some of those we've already been working on for years. We have made it easier to put in accessory dwelling units so that we can have smaller, more accessible places for lower rent, as well as people to age in place and have some place for someone to stay that can help them. Tiny house developments we've started the innovative affordable housing ordinance, which is amazing. People have borrowed it from other cities. We recently have done multifamily infill and PUD ordinances, the latter of which we are requiring what Gail was talking about, inclusionary or some kind of affordable housing. We are working on that. But there's so many things we're doing. Just today, we wrote a grant. We put a grant in to actually keep our planning director, a great planning director that just left the job, is now contracting with us along with a new great planning director. And we're putting together a task force for this. So we're doing a lot. So I'm so excited. Okay, I'm done, Joanne.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Be excited.
The next person to answer the question will be Gail Fleming.
Thank you. There's so many things, and like Rhonda said, listen to the meetings that she held on affordable housing. But one of the things that's important to me is about accessory dwelling units, ADUs, that we really do what we can to encourage using those as long-term rentals. And I shouldn't say discourage, but tone down the use of them as vacation rentals. And we do have things in place for that, but I think that needs to be continued, and also to encourage and make it easy, incentivize long ADUs for long-term rentals. That's enough.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question will be Carolyn Bobus.
I think the city of Langley really needs to ask itself, what is affordable housing? I mean, I've met a number of elderly people who have had their homes sold, and you see these heartbreaking ads on Drew's List as they look for new places to live. And I wonder, are they joining the ranks of our homeless? We always thought the homeless were people who didn't want to take care of themselves, either through drugs or mental illness, and that's not always the case. I'm not sure what the strategies that the city will accept, because this is not a very diverse city, and it's not a classless city. So I'm not gonna tell people what they need to do. I want to hear what they think is the right way to go.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question will be Kay Kennewick. Unmute yourself, please.
I unmuted. I would like to see Whidbey Island Share a Home coming back, which they had 5 years ago. And in it, people could find rentals with people who had already houses. And for the elders, it was perfect because they would be getting more income coming in by renting a room for others. And it was, I used that. They had it 6 years ago when I was going to school at Skagit Valley, and I was renting a room while I was going to school. And I wish that Whidbey Island would bring it back again. It was a grant program. And it would give people, show people who was interested in renting rooms in their houses. Kind of like what Drew's List is doing now. But it was a good program. And I had gone to the Homeless Coalition and asked them if they could redo it, and they hadn't thought of doing it. But perhaps the Affordable Housing Commission could take it up. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last person to answer the question is Tony Gill.
Absolutely affordable housing. I have personal experience with a young couple with children trying to find a place to live, and you know how hard it is on the whole South Whidbey. And I think Langley could be a hub for not only affordable housing, but low cost and intermediate, so people will have a place to stay. And I'd also like to point out, there are a few houses in this city that are essentially brand new. They've been built for years, but nobody's ever lived in them because the property was purchased, the house was put up simply as an investment. So that's something we need to think about when we're thinking about this, because what we have, we're not utilizing. And we do need to address that also. But we do need affordable housing very bad. I have personal knowledge of elderly females, 2 of them, that they were renting a property. The property is going to be sold. They had to move, and they really had to scramble to find a place at twice the rent they were paying. So thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to question number 3. We are already experiencing the effects of climate change, including smoke from wildfires, droughts, and record-breaking heat waves. Sea levels are projected to rise, endangering our shorelines. What role can local government play in combating these effects? And the first person to answer the question will be Tony Gill.
Well, thank you for being first. Eroding shorelines in a climate that I've noticed the 30 years I've been here that the summers are getting more severe. It was, I don't know how many years I lived here before we saw triple digits in the summertime, but it's coming and it's going to get worse. Smoke and wildfires that are on the island we can't do much about. But I think protecting the sea level and the seawall, well, this is a seaside city, and I can see intrusion. In other countries, they've built kind of like a snow fence out on the sea to take away wave action, to slow that down and use up that energy before it gets to the shore. And again, I'll go back to my infrastructure and taking care of the water we're producing and Mother Nature's given us. Our septic tanks and drain fields and our driveways and our streets are all draining to the sea. And the bluff is the worst. It's absolutely the worst. It's a wonder. We've got one big slide down there. It's a wonder we haven't had several more. But government needs to pay attention to what it's already said, what it's already done, and the ordinances it has. We really need to do that. We seem to get an ordinance, we plan it, we run it, all right, we approve it, and then we don't go back to it. We don't use it. Getting housing in there is one of the prime examples. Thank you. I'll finish early.
Thank you. The next question, or the next person to answer the question, is Carolyn Bobus.
I have worked for several environmental foundations. And I wonder, can the city of Langley partner with an environmental foundation or another foundation and help people put solar panels on their homes? I lived in Greece for 10 years. Every home in Greece has a solar hot water tank. That's how they heat their hot water. They don't use electricity for that. They do have electricity, but it's something that they recognize. They have so much sun. Why not use it? We don't have a great deal of sun, but we're getting a lot more. There's not much we can do from the wildfires. There's not much we can do about heat waves, other than each individual doing what they can to take care of the only home we have.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question is Kay Kennewick.
Hello, I unmuted. So what we can do for the climate change? There is already a climate change committee at the council that Peter Morton has done, and that's a really good, having this students involved. The smoke, the wildfires, and the droughts and the heat waves, I would like the Parks Department and people to go around and see which trees are being scorched and perhaps treat them for damage and the like. And they'll have to get another, for the sea level, they'll have to build up the seawall, but I think that's in the plans anyways. And just to let people know to use, to walk more and use public transportation. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Rhonda Salerno.
Right, well, exactly. Well, I really look forward to helping to create ordinances that plan for the use of electric vehicles in our town. There is new exciting stuff happening with the Island County Transit with the use of electric vehicles and the ability for people just to call up and get picked up at their home and driven to where they want, all without fossil fuel. We have had Bridget Reynolds, our previous planning director, who is going to stay on, like I said, as a contracted planning person, has done a whole series on sea level rise, and managed retreat is one of those you can look at. We need to build to make fossil fuel use obsolete in the building of new dwelling units and existing units. And we now have a mayor who has a lot of experience in solar implementation. And I'm so excited to see what kind of ordinances that can come up in this area. We need
Time. Sorry, Rhonda, it's time.
ordinances. That's it, tree ordinances, I'll end, sorry. I wasn't looking at Joanne, sorry, Joanne.
And Gail Fleming, your turn.
Okay, well, everybody so far, thank you, has touched on the things that I would have said. Yeah, the fossil fuel, the reduction of fossil fuel just on the part of the city with the police cars would be a real good start. And yeah, the tree ordinance, I was on the planning advisory board when we worked on the tree ordinance, when we redid the tree ordinance, because a lot of people had worked on that before, and it needs a lot more work to really make sure that our important trees are preserved and protected. And I would love to see that revisited. The seawall is it, whoever it was, Kay, I think said that, I'll talk fast, that is in the CIP, that is in line to, for it to be shored up, so to speak. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to question number 4. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, many businesses have struggled to continue providing their goods and services to the public. In addition to economic hardship, they have the problem of worker shortages. What measures can the City of Langley take to support its business community in solving these problems? And the question goes first to Kay Kennewick. You're muted, Kay.
To get affordable housing is important. And they've been having, during the COVID pandemic, there were grants going out to the businesses to keep them going, which was really important, by the Governor Inslee. And it got a lot of people through them, our businesses in Langley. Other than that is to find other ways to house the people in Langley. We have people right now who are working in the post office that are living in van on 3rd Street. And they're all alternatives, and perhaps some people can live at the fairgrounds or have other people who want the people look for, people who have rooms around the neighborhood and let the businesses know that they can house their employees. So it's all communication. Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes next to Gail Fleming.
Well, I agree with you, Kay. And yes, it all comes back to affordable housing in terms of the worker shortages. And I mean, what we can do to, obviously we kept going to the Star Store no matter what, but in terms of the restaurants, people were doing a lot of things that, whatever they could think of to order takeout or whatever, so that the restaurants could keep going. We can keep doing that. One thing I just want to throw in this little thought, which is that a lot of times people have talked about how if we just do multifamily infill, somehow that will solve the affordable housing problem. And in my experience, that is not the case. That fourplexes and duplexes in my neighborhood, part of which is supposedly the most affordable neighborhood in Langley, are going for like $1,600, $1,800 a month. So I do not think that's the answer. But yeah, living at the fairgrounds, etc. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The question goes next to Rhonda Salerno.
Okay. I think affordable housing is the biggest thing we can do to help our businesses attract and keep employees. When our first meeting that talked about the challenges in Langley, about affordable housing, we brought 3 business owners in to speak of their, and it's very disastrous and main reason why we can't have the employees, because Langley is a beautiful place to live and work. And so this is the thing stopping us. So the crisis, and our mayor even talks of calling an emergency affordable housing crisis that we can attend to. But he has worked with, there is the port. This is exciting. The port is thinking of rebuilding some of their stands at the fairgrounds to include affordable housing on top. We have right now 7 ADUs in our permitting, and we've had other groups come forward to help solve this crisis. We have a community home trust that is being put together, and we have another group of very active citizens led by Pam Shell that is to give some attention. So look forward to that. We're going to do that.
Thank you. The next person to answer is going to be Tony Gill.
Well, housing is very important. It'd be real nice to be able to work in a city, make a living wage, and live there. That's kind of what you dream of. I think one of the problems we have with business in the core is promoting it. I'm not sure we do promote it very well. I certainly don't see promotions on it at all. I got that put in my ear today from somebody that was concerned about it. And I'm not sure, what's our parking situation down here? I mean, you go on a nice sunny Saturday and you got to walk in from Freeland to get downtown. It's quite an ordeal. We do have that lot up there above, but I've had somebody call me and about this, and they seem to think that there should be a night in Langley that caters to the locals. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't know. When the Edgecliff was open, it used to have a $6 hamburger. Thanks.
Thank you. And the last person to answer the question is Carolyn Bobitz.
I think we need to talk to other businesses and other cities our size who've been able to do it. We talk about going to the Star Store. I live across the street from the Star Store. They recently lost one of their produce guys who'd been there a long time because he can't afford to live here anymore. Somehow Dick's is paying their employees $19 an hour. There isn't a Dick's on the island, of course, but it's close by. I think we need to maybe get out of our wonderful, cozy, beautiful spot and look at what others are doing and see what things that we can do here. I do think the city of Langley did a great job during the pandemic and still now with the outdoor seating at restaurants.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will go to our final question, question number 5. The city represented the Langley Infrastructure Project, or LIP bond issue to the public based on the need to replace the old crumbling water lines. The city now faces a large budget shortfall for the project. Why not use the available funds to replace the water lines and provide the desperately needed stormwater management and postpone or rethink the sewer project? The first person to answer this question will be Gail Fleming.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, the problem is that the $3 million we got from the county was for new infrastructure, not for fixing the old crumbling water lines and sewer, the problems with the sewer. And so that's needs to be looked at. But if I was in charge and had been able to flip those priorities, I would have done exactly what this question is talking about. So the available funds is the $4 million from the bond, not the $3 million from the county, which the purpose of that was to provide jobs and workforce housing. And I'm not quite sure how that computes. Yeah, it bears further examination. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The question now goes to Carolyn Bobus.
If I join the city council, I would suggest renegotiating the contract with the county. We have those funds to do a particular thing. And if you don't do that particular thing, you must repay those funds. I don't see how Langley's going to be able to repay those funds. So we have one of two choices: renegotiate the contract, the memorandum of agreement, the grant, or I don't think we can do any of it.
Thank you. The question goes to Tony Gill.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with that on the surface. I really don't. I don't know if there's any state statutes dictate where the money is. I know the budget has been collecting money for both of these problems for years. And now there's a shortfall. I can't see inflation slowing down, so the shortfall is just going to get bigger. So why not move that money and fix the water? I'd rather have something to drink than, the sewer system. I really would. I have a septic system. It works. I don't know of any that have failed here in my neighborhood. Back to the erosion down on Edgecliff, those are in danger. But what's the city need? That's what we need to consider. Don't worry about what we've done in the past, because a lot of this should have been done years ago. It just wasn't. So I would say, let's use the money. Let's research using the money. Like I said, there may be a state statute that says once you earmark something for something, it has to go there. Because I know there's two different places in the budget for those expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person will be Kay Kenowig.
Hello, and I think it needs re-examined because you don't want to take funds that are available to one thing and illegally use them for another thing and then have to pay them back. And it just needs to be researched more to see if it's allowed, and perhaps look for more grants to be able to take care of that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, Rhonda Salerno.
Well, you're all right. I know that the actual grant that was given to us by the Island County was not at all for workforce housing. It was actually for providing jobs. It was a rural economic development grant. And we were sort of misled as to what we got that money for. So I don't think anything's been created as far as jobs go. So we need to relook at that money and the use of it. I definitely think water is big. I can tell you a personal story about water of my own knowing, but I won't go into that, but I think that we do need to relook at this. And before we do any digging up of anything along very fragile bluffs, our whole city is built on bluffs, and we need a hydrogeological study done before we start digging up. And I don't think we have people doing the engineering that have that expertise. We need to hire firms that do this for a living. And it's not that much. We had okay. Sorry.
Thank you. That concludes our questions. So we will now move to the 2-minute closing statements. And we will begin with Harolyn Bobus.
I'm running for the Langley City Council because I like Langley. It's a great small town. There aren't enough people who look like me. And I think there would be more if people felt that they were welcomed. I've served on the Dismantling Systemic Racism Committee, and there's lots of things that we don't think about that leads into that. So that said, I hope you vote for me. I appreciate the league taking the time to have this forum. And I appreciate I can't call her an opponent. She's not an opponent. She's a friend. And I appreciate my friend Kay for her thoughtfulness. But I really think I'm best qualified to serve in this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Gail Fleming.
Thank you. So I'm going to read this so I don't just stumble around and I actually maybe semi-coherent. With my vision, passion, communication skills, and experience, I believe I am well qualified to represent all the citizens of Langley as we move forward together into a more equitable, affordable, greener, and sustainable future. As a believer in collaborative leadership, I would work well with fellow council members, staff, and the mayor. My institutional memory gained through 2 decades of working with and within the city government gives me a good head start. I encourage and welcome input from the public and am excited about what we can all learn from the newly created committees, the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, the Climate Crisis Action Committee, and the Dismantling Systemic Racism Committee. We are a vibrant, creative, and caring community, and we have a long way to go. Let's move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Tony Gill.
Well, how to sum all this up? I think we're all seeking this position for a good reason. I think we all bring different things to the table. We all have different ideas and different ways to look. We really do. One of the things that was touched on very lightly this evening was communication. This city government right now doesn't communicate very well. It doesn't listen very well, and you don't know what's going on down there unless you actually go look. Now, why should you vote for me? Because I've got the education, knowledge, and experience to help. Plus, I'll listen. That's the number one thing has come across my telephone, which I didn't expect to get calls before the election. But communication. We do need problems in race, and I don't see anything out of doing that outside of just plain old education. Just absolutely informing people and making them realize some people are racist, don't even know they are. I mean, they really are. It's just that simple. But not everybody's built with an IQ over 100, you know. But anyway, enough of that said. I've been here a long time. I'd like to see this little town succeed. We need to, like I said before, promote the downtown core businesses. We got to preserve our shoreline. We got to help people that live here, and we've got to help people that want to live here, regardless of who they are. I mean, we've got to get that out of our brain set. We just have to. We just have to be an inclusive city and just live. I mean, it's a nice little town, isn't it? There's not a lot wrong with it. Really, there's not. Take a look at Langley. What's wrong with it? Rains too much. Other than that, you know, we got a nice little town. Let's take care of it. I'd like to do that. I really do. I think I've got the expertise and the knowledge and the know-how. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kay Kennewick.
Hello, in closing, I'd like to thank you, League of Women Voters and the library, and to get everyone who participated tonight. And I'd just like to say, I wanted to run because I wanted to try and run. So get everybody out there to vote. And thank you so much for this evening. Now.
Thank you. And Rhonda Salerno.
Okay. Oh, I got to get to my notes. I just want to say how grateful I am to the League of Women Voters for holding these forums. These are really the foundation of our democracy, a chance for all of us to be heard and to listen to one another. As I'm running unopposed, I won't elaborate on who I am. That you can glean from my website, which is rondasalerno.com. The South Whidbey record articles, and This is Whidbey came out recently, so you can learn all about me that way. But I want to say that your vote for me, I will take as a vote of confidence for the issues and the values that I will bring to Langley City Council. I promise to bring integrity, experience, and compassion to my role as a city council member. Learning to truly listen and hear opinions and perspectives other than my own has been my greatest asset lately. I am very dedicated and have been working very hard for affordable housing, solving our climate crisis, and making Langley and its surrounds welcoming for all and a racially equitable community. This is a very exciting time for me. I've attended these forums for many years and have been involved in city council meetings for a long time. I can tell you that I've come a long way over the years from being a concerned citizen and speaking my truth with a lot of passion to being a much better listener and researcher before I open my mouth now. I knew it was time for me to step up for city council when I found myself in the Zoom background at city council meetings over the last year, talking to my computer, answering questions, and adding my 2 cents. Sometimes I feel like I spend too much time talking to my representatives, and if I had a voice at the table, I could contribute all that I've learned in my role. And I'm running out of time, so I don't know what to cut out here. But I do want to say that I've been a proud member of the League of Women Voters since I was in college. And it is historically a place where all candidates gather and have a chance to reframe civil debate to meaningful dialogue. I think it speaks volumes that another event was organized at the same time.
Thank you.
Then by the challenging candidates of our school board incumbents. So make sure you vote. It's important for our children to vote for our incumbents. Sorry.
I'm sorry, time is up.
Okay.
I want to thank all of you, Carolyn Bobus, Kay Kennewick, Rhonda Salerno, Tony Gill, and Gail Fleming for participating in this forum. And now we will proceed to our Q&A for the candidates for South Whidbey School Board positions 2, 4, and 5. The Washington School Board standards provide a common framework for school board governance for local school boards and directors. One set of standards addresses the school board's leadership role. in governing and includes responsible governance, expectations for student learning, conditions for student and staff success, accountability, and community engagement. The other set addresses professional standards for individual school directors and includes values and ethical behavior, leadership, communication, growth and learning, and accountability. Directors serve for 4-year terms. And this evening we have present Andrea Downs, Marnie Jackson, and Ann Johnson. Don Tarantino, Farah Manning Davis, and Bree Kramer Nelson are not participating this evening. So we will move on to the first question. What do you believe is most important about our public education system? And the question goes first to Andrea Downs.
Hi, thank you for having us here tonight. It's an honor to be here with my colleagues, Ann and Marnie. I believe that the most important thing about our public school system is to teach students the skills and the knowledge that they need to navigate our changing global society. I believe that this has advanced beyond our typical just memorization of facts and figures and has moved into critical thinking skills and being able to understand how to find information and how to apply it when they need it. I believe that our public education system needs to meet the needs of all students and all learners, no matter how they come to the table. So in regards to meeting students' needs when they require special education services or if they are experiencing homelessness, our school systems need to be equipped and ready to help support them through that. And we also need to build their skill sets as they need them to move forward in whatever path or life that they are choosing, whether that's career and technical professions, whether it is secondary college education, whether it's going into our armed forces, or straight into the workforce. Our students need to have the skills and the preparedness to be able to choose whatever path they would like at whatever point in their life that they may want to shift or change. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to answer the question will be Marnie Jackson.
Thank you. And likewise, it's an honor to be here this evening. Thank you for having me, and thank you for welcoming my colleagues, Ann and Andrea. I believe that a public education should be equitably accessible to every student, regardless of that student's background, circumstances, or perhaps experiences of systemic oppression. And so ensuring that public education is not only excellent, but also equitably excellent, so that barriers to success are removed for every student, ensures that the full student body can experience the kind of success that a great public education provides. And so that does go beyond just classroom learning. It also includes creating a more equitable school culture, a culture where the feeling of belonging can be conveyed through and to every staff member, every administrator, every student. And through that culture of belonging, we can create a learning environment where people are really inspired to succeed and feel safe enough to do their very best, and then gain not only the social emotional, but also the academic skills that they need to carry forward. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ann Johnson.
Hello, thank you for having me. And again, I love being here with Andrea and Marnie, my two colleagues, and I love talking about schools. And they gave me great springboard to talk about what I believe is the most important thing, and that's the people, the students, of course, because that's why we have public education in place in the first place. Having leadership, staff, support staff, administration, who's caring, who's professional, who's ready to meet head on the challenges that our current students face, and celebrate the wins that our current students get. I believe that schools are a cornerstone of our communities, especially in a small towns, in the small communities such as we live in. It's so important that our kids feel valued, and also that our kids learn to be part of the global world. And so the people who our kids see every day in school and those kids themselves, they create the schools, and they're the most important thing about public education.
Thank you. With that, we move on to question number 2. What is the first policy change you will champion if elected? And the question goes first to Marnie Jackson.
Great question. I really look forward to hearing Andrea's answer because she's just such a wizardess of policy knowledge and expertise. I was very, very excited to see the adoption of a new ethnic studies class and new environmental science curriculum at the high school level. And I would like to look at our policies around whether such coursework is considered elective or required for students at the high school level, because I'm seeing the tremendous leaps and bounds that students are making in their understanding of world history and global social movements just through this first semester of some students experiencing the ethnic studies course. So I would just love to understand how many students have access to that curriculum, how many students have the choice to participate, and is that something that should become part of our required curriculum? Thank you.
Thank you. The question goes next to Ann Johnson.
Thank you. Good, very good question. One of the things I've realized about being a school board member is that there's a very steep learning curve. And so I've spent the last year learning the policies and understanding how important they are and how important it is to look at the school district with that 30,000-foot view, in that, helicopter bird's eye view. I have spent a lot of time watching, the experts who were already on the board doing that work. And I've really enjoyed watching just the small changes we've made that mean so much to human and civil rights. For example, making sure our language is they rather than he, she, therefore ending that gender binary, making sure that both parents and caregivers are given equal play in legal policy documents so that all caregivers are recognized and all children are protected. So I don't know what I would change, but I really enjoy the direction we're going.
Thank you. And Andrea Downs.
So I'm not actually looking forward to changing one policy, but what I'm really looking forward to is one of the goals we set for Dr. Moshe this upcoming school year was to facilitate and participate in restorative circles with the community and to help South Whidbey School District make amends for harm that has been unintentionally caused to communities. And what I'm really excited about is having the relationship to be able to bring new people to the table when we talk about policy. One of the things that I do as the policy representative on the board is I look through each policy and I go through it through a bunch of different lenses, and I look at it from who's not at the table or whose voice isn't represented here. And my hope and my intention is with that change, with that goal, we will have new people at the table and new voices to consider, and our policies will become more holistic for our students.
Thank you. And we go to question number 3. What role should public schools play in supporting the mental health of students? And this time we will start with Ann Johnson.
Thank you so much. This is very important to me. I worked in human services for quite a while in my career, and I know for sure, and also in my time as a classroom teacher, that students can't learn unless they are emotionally, socially, and ready with basic needs. If a kiddo is hungry, they're not going to learn. If a kiddo is having challenges at home, they're not going to learn. If a kiddo isn't supported with emotional and mental wellness, they're not going to learn. And so I think it's absolutely imperative that we have the right staff and the right professionals and the right number of professionals to truly and really help kiddos when they're struggling. I think it's so important for children to have trusted adults, both in the classroom and in the office, who can be that person in case they need that person at school. And so I believe that all of the resources that can go to that should go to that, so that every kid has an opportunity to have that trusted adult with not only the caring and the loving, but also the professional skills to be able to help that child in real time.
Thank you. The question goes to Andrea Downs now.
So I'm going to piggyback off of everything that Anne said, because yes, all of those things hold true. The other piece that I think we also just have to recognize and acknowledge is right now, with the way that our social structures are created, schools are where some of our students receive their mental health services. And my entire career has been based in mental health and supporting students with that. I've worked with districts where I have had social workers work alongside me in the classroom, and I've seen the benefit of that. I've worked in districts where we have contracted in mental health therapists from Children's Hospital, and they worked alongside me in the classroom, and I've seen students benefit from that. I've also worked in districts where we have contracted out to bring students to counseling during the school day to help support that. There are so many different ways that a school district can address mental health. And really what we have to look at is, what are the needs of our students? What is the capacity of our community? And how can we do the most good that we can within the lane we are given?
Thank you. And Marnie Jackson.
Thank you. Everything that Anne and Andrea shared is so true and so important. And I would just add that students experienced the profound disruption of the pandemic in this past 2 years. And for many students, the interruption included sort of the severance of their peer group relationships, as students were educated at home, and many lost access to extracurricular activities and social time with students their age. So I think this is a time when with students back in classrooms, with teachers and students, again, interfacing in person, there's an opportunity to notice what extra social emotional supports do students need as they readapt to being part of an in-person learning cohort, and what extra supports might students need as they come into the educational setting with this extra potential trauma of having lived through a pandemic and a society in transition. So for some, it may have been a time of financial insecurity at home. And so yes, important. I'll stop. Thanks.
Thank you. We will go to question number 4. What are your views regarding South Whidbey High School's new ethnic studies curriculum and comprehensive sex education? The question goes first to Andrea Downs.
Oh, I knew this one was going to come up. So in regards to my views around the new ethnic studies curriculum, I think it's fantastic. I think any way that our students can learn about a variety of perspectives, a variety of people's experiences in this world, whether it be in history, English literature, math, science, what have you, I am for it. And as long as our teachers feel that they have a voice and a say in how that comes across, and as long as it meets our students' needs and their graduation requirements, I think it's a fantastic idea. The comprehensive sex ed question, I'm going to kind of use my time to go more through a tutorial. So if you go on to OSPI's website, and if you just type in comprehensive sex health education, what you will see is a breakdown of what that law actually says, and a timeline for implementation and the implementation requirements. Beginning in the 2021-22 school year, there are 3 requirements. That's that schools must begin providing comprehensive sex ed education at least twice in grades 6 through 8 and twice in grades 9 through 12. Instruction must include age-appropriate information about affirmative consent and bystander training, and instruction must include language and strategies that recognize all members of protected classes. That is all that is changed within our comprehensive sex ed education policy. And as always, parents have the ability to view the materials and opt out should they choose.
Thank you. The question goes next to Ann Johnson.
Thank you so much, Andrea. And that is why she is the queen of policy for the school board. I was absolutely so excited when our brand new student representative, who was voted in by the ASB, came to our last board meeting and reported that the freshmen who are in the ethnic studies class are really enjoying it. They feel like they're learning, they feel like they're part of the curriculum, they feel represented, and they feel just really ready to absorb history in a different way and look at things in a different way through a different lens. And so that made me really excited because, again, we want our students to be able to drive their education and to feel like they have really learned the things that they need to learn in order to feel safe and comfortable in the outside world and safe and comfortable in their classroom at school. And so that just made me really proud. Comprehensive sex education is important and must be part of a good school day. And I have more to say, but I'll be done.
Thank you. The question goes next to Marnie Jackson.
Thank you. Well, you've heard me speak to how excited I am about the new ethnic studies curriculum. I was so excited in the policy section that I jumped ahead to this curriculum. I'm just hearing anecdotal stories from students that it's vastly different than they expected. It's vastly eye-opening. It's expanding their horizons and their perspectives. And I think it's really celebrating the cultural origins and heritage of every student. So, you know, for instance, my student is on my side of the family of primarily Scottish and English descent, and she got to explore that with me in conversation at home. So it's been just a great experience from the perspective of my own daughter and others that have shared anecdotally with me. So I'm excited about students having that broadened lens on the diversity of our communities and human story. As far as comprehensive sex ed, I think one of the most exciting things about what we teach, and which is also standard in Washington State, is that very early we teach young students about consent, not in regards to sex, but in regards to very simple things like, can you unzip my backpack? And those are life skills we all need. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. We will move to question number 5. With the COVID-19 pandemic still looming large, what measures should schools adopt to protect students, educators, and staff from becoming infected with the virus? The question goes first to Marnie Jackson.
Thank you. I'm really proud of our district for the safety measures that are in place. I'm also really grateful for our wise leadership in Washington State that has mandated masks in schools. Our district dashboard on the website shows very low incidence of COVID positive testing in the schools. We do have tests available for any person who feels, any student or staff member who feels like they might have a symptom and need to be tested. And I would encourage voters to support the mask mandate in schools, continue to be glad that our students are willing to show up with both a mask and a smile, keep each other and their communities safe. We've had wonderful compliance. I think our youth are having a great experience despite this restriction. And I also would love to see the opposition candidates ask this same question of, would they be as supportive of these important public safety measures? Because I just think keeping people safe and healthy during a pandemic is one of our most important duties as we bring students together physically in person.
Thank you. The question goes to Andrea Downs.
Thank you. This is my 9 to 5. This is what I do all day. In working with an educational service district, I supported developing and helping districts understand how to do this safely by partnering with departments of health, all of the various counties. And what I have found over the last 2 years is that we can find ways to do it safely. The way that we can bring students back to school safely is with responsible distancing, with wearing masks, with encouraging staff to get vaccinated if they are eligible and able, and encouraging students to get vaccinated if they are eligible and able. With that, we can stay open safely. It does not mean we will not have to shift to quarantine, but it does mean that we can mitigate the risk and we can keep kids in school.
Thank you. And then on to Ann Johnson.
Thank you. when I came on board last August, this was one of the main topics of conversation in 2020, of course, that the board was grappling with. And I was so impressed coming, right to the table and having such clear and informed leadership around what was important and how COVID was going to impact students right then and continue impacting students until we can say we're as clear as we can be of the virus. During that first meeting, Dr. Moshe said, it's not a case of, if we have COVID in the buildings, it's when. And so we need to prepare to protect people from that point forward. And so I see mitigation methods being used. I hear my own student tell me that people are being very safe. And the same kiddos come to my work in the nonprofit world, and they're following those same protocols, and they're doing it not particularly with joy, but with aplomb. They don't mind doing it because they know how important it is. Thank you.
Thank you. And we go to question number 6. What physical infrastructure priorities would you like to see in the school district's budget? And the question goes first to Ann Johnson.
Thank you. This is an important question, I think, because the first priority I would say would be to keep students safe. I have one student in the district still, my other graduated last spring, and some of our buildings are a little elderly and a little fragile, and some of our buildings are newer. There are definitely some things that are, challenging about those infrastructures, especially the elder buildings. But what I do know is that our district has a bead on the safeties for our students. And those are the things they're always going to put into priority. They're always going to make sure that roof structures are in place and safe. They're always going to make sure that, classroom air is well ventilated, especially in COVID times. They're always going to make sure that heating systems are up to snuff. They're always going to make sure the kids feel safe and comfortable in their school day, and that teachers feel safe and comfortable, because that's teachers' workplace and support staff's workplace and administrators' workplace. And so they want to see things be safe and comfortable as well. Again, one of the things I've learned as a school board member in the last year is how intricate that silo of capital budget is and what it can and cannot be used for. And when there are outside projects that are above and beyond the scope of those finances, it's very hard to be able to justify them without asking for extra capital funds or running a levy. And so I think our school district does a fantastic job using the budget they have to prioritize what's the most important.
Thank you. The question goes next to Marnie Jackson.
Thank you. It's a great question. And one thing that occurs to me is that there was some notable criticism of the physical conditions of our buildings based on some photos that were taken after more than a year of students being educated remotely in their homes. And I'm proud of the district for rapidly responding to the need to go online early in the pandemic, and making sure that every student in the district had access to a Chromebook and adequate internet access and meals delivered by bus if there was a need for food in the home. So I'm proud of our district for adapting to meet the needs of our students, who are those we are charged to serve during the year when they were educated remotely. I also believe that our physical infrastructure absolutely needs care. And I really admire the great work of our staff, including Assistant Superintendent Dan Pullman. I think that he just has a great eye on what's upcoming, what's already on the roster, given the budget we have, and what needs to be funded by a levy or a bond. So I do recall that there was a failed bond, perhaps it was a failed levy.
Thank you. The question goes on to Andrea Downs.
I can pick up where Marnie left off. So prior to the pandemic, there was actually a bond committee that had already been formed. They had gone through and they were getting bids on replacing and repairing the infrastructure priorities that, as Marnie mentioned, has been outlined in the public forum. The pandemic shut that down. The intention is to re-establish that committee and to pull it together. I think the first priority is always safety. And in our last board meeting, we approved the purchase of a full new security system for all of our schools. This allows people to enter and exit the building through a key card access. It improves security for the building, and it's also adding value to care for our infrastructure. The big piece that I would encourage people to look at is how can capital projects be funded, and what is allowed and what has to go to the voters. And unfortunately, the siding alone for the high school was a $1.3 million bid.
Time.
Thank you very much. We have one final question, question number 7. It is desirable for communities, schools, and public meetings to be safe places for civil discourse. How will you promote respectful, effective communication among people with differing viewpoints? And the question goes first to Andrea Downs.
So I think the first way that you do this is you hold boundaries. We had to demonstrate this when we shifted our school board meetings back to virtual. We were entering a place when we were holding in-person meetings where we were not able to have respectful, effectively communicated, effective communication within our meetings. I think that one of the things that I brought up a couple board meetings back was whether or not we needed a civility policy for teachers to have reference and principals to have reference to when they feel that the conversations they're engaging in are no longer respectful. But I think that ultimately we have to present ourselves as professionals, and we have to also hold the public's expectation that they engage with us in a professional manner. We are modeling for our students, and we are modeling for our children how this process works. And we're modeling how you get your viewpoint heard. And unfortunately, for some right now, we're modeling negatively. And I think that that's something we have to continue to maintain. And it's also something that is not unique to South Whidbey. The FBI just opened up a whole hotline for school board members, teachers, administrators to submit instances where they're engaged, where this behavior is impacting them in a significant way.
Thank you. The question goes next to Ann Johnson.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for that, Andrea. I always like to think of best intentions. I always believe that any parent or any stakeholder who comes to a school board meeting, for example, or any civil meeting is there with best intentions. And I think in school board specifically, those folks have kids in mind. They are, there with some level of love for the students they're representing. I think sometimes that comes with a level of passion that can get out of hand and can become uncivil discourse, especially in our very divisive times. I think our students at the board meetings have been our best example of how to communicate with truth and with honesty and with thoughtfulness and in a real authentic way, while still being able to follow a code of conduct that keeps the contact and the communication civil and meaningful and intentional to the process. And so for that, I really appreciate those students who speak out.
Thank you. And on to Marnie Jackson.
Thank you. Andrea and Ann, you both shared such valid perspectives. Thank you. I would just add that I think it's important to listen for understanding, regardless of one's personal perspective on what might be shared. And as was said by my colleague, to assume best intent. So generally, when I receive feedback from a community member in my position on the school board, I understand that that comes from love of a student, love of our students in general, love of this community and its children. And I'm serving because of love of this community and its children. And so assuming best intent and then following it with the understanding that listening for understanding doesn't mean saying yes to every request. Listening for understanding means integrating multiple perspectives and finding the best way forward with as many people at the table as possible, so that as many students as possible are served as well as possible in a community of belonging and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we move on to the candidates' 2-minute closing statements. And we will begin with Andrea Downs.
Thank you. Coming from an education background, I'm keenly aware of the challenges both students and districts face in providing a quality education to all students. I have found that by serving as the policy representative on the board, I'm in a position where I can meaningfully impact and dismantle these barriers. We have worked hard as a district to bring issues around equity to the center of our work. I've led this work through developing the equity policy and revising the curriculum policy to screen for bias. I am worried that this work will be undone. I will continue to keep the spotlight on these issues and would like to initiate restorative conversations with the community members who have been harmed by the presence of bias in our school district. My career and educational experiences have always focused on serving students at the edges of our system. I have spent the last 4 years doing my best to protect all of our students and ensuring that school is a safe place to land, no matter who you are. I have done my best to listen to and protect our students. It is my hope that we as a community can continue to protect those students and to give every student a safe place to receive an exceptional education. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Marnie Jackson. Marnie, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting this forum and for welcoming me tonight. I'm serving on our South Whidbey School Board because I believe our students deserve the best, safest, most welcoming, and most inclusive school environments possible. I'm honored by endorsements from our Teachers Union, South Whidbey Education Association, Washington Education Association, PAC, and other notable local groups. I'm running to support my own daughters and every child in our district, my daughters, my neighbors, and perhaps your children, your grandchildren, and your friends. Our students are being kept safe and healthy during a pandemic by the wise, fact-based, and experienced decision-making of our current board. Our students walk through those doors every day and are greeted by teachers who are supported to create a more welcoming and inclusive school culture, and who know their own safety is valued by this board and administration. Our students deserve to see themselves in our definition of who belongs in this community. Your vote to retain me and our 2 other incumbent school board members is a vote to continue to nurture safe, equitable, and inclusive learning environments where every student is supported to succeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ann Johnson. Oh, and you're mute.
There we go. Got it. Thank you so much. I have over 25 years of experience in education, and I have worked with so many different groups in leadership roles in all kinds of different classroom-based and human service-based, and now I work in arts education, and I have never met a more dedicated group of humans than the current South Whidbey School Board. So for just a moment, before I talk more about myself, I just really want to talk about my colleagues, Andrea and Marnie, who are running for to keep their positions, and just what amazing teammates they make on the board. They have the experience and I believe the passion to, keep progress moving forward for our schools. And that's what I would like to as well, because these are challenging times. And I think it's more important than ever to provide the right balance of academic rigor and emotional support for our local kids. And I believe if you vote for me, I feel like I can advocate for South Whidbey School District mission to provide a global education and still celebrate our wonderful, rich history and culture. Our community is so very, very unique. And I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to continue centering social and educational justice, providing a comprehensive education at all grade levels, using that best practice for decision-making. I want to continue raising up the voices of students and people who have been harmed by systems. And I want their voice to be heard, and not just at the table, but heard and belonging. And I want to recognize the value of our competent teachers and professionals and support staff and our whole community that really rallies around the school. That's the cornerstone of our community here. I want every child to see themselves as capable and kind and caring. And I believe in progress for South Whidbey schools. And I know you do too. So thank you so much for your vote.
Thank you. Candidates who are unable to participate in our league forums may submit a 2-minute written statement to be read by the moderator. Farrah Manning Davis submitted a statement that I will read. Dear League of Women Voters of Whidbey Island and South Whidbey community members, I'm sorry to miss you at this important forum, but I had committed to a planned event weeks before I learned about this, but I do appreciate the opportunity to present my statement here. I was born and raised on Whidbey Island, and I have been an Orca, a Cougar, and a Proud Falcon student. I was involved in student leadership roles and was selected by the faculty as one of 6 students to participate in the evaluation of going from a 6 to 4 period block. I was also a TA for many teachers my entire time at South Whidbey High School. I contribute these years to shaping and building my confidence to succeed. My campaign is focused on declining enrollment, loss of teachers and opportunities in education and life skills, and the poor maintenance of our school properties. Declining enrollment. South Whidbey schools have been decreasing in enrollment for a good number of years. Based on many conversations with parents and students, a few things stand out. The school curriculum does not always meet learning expectations or diverse needs, some sharing from personal experience that their students who struggle are being left behind and that bright minds are dimmed due to lack of opportunities. Therefore, one conclusion is that parents are choosing to enroll their children elsewhere, and that is evident by the growing statistics from the private schools that are overflowing and have waiting lists. It isn't a lack of families or children or housing. It is coming from a desire for more opportunities, which leads to a better and more equitable education for their children. Clearly, there is a breakdown in communication, and I will listen in order to learn what can be done better. Thank you. Education state report cards rate student performance from 2018 to 2019 before COVID closure at 63% for English language arts, 46% for math, 58% for science.
And it's time.
Thank you. I would like to thank the candidates who attended this forum for school board positions. And so thank you again, Andrea Downs, Marnie Jackson, and Ann Johnson for your participation this evening.
Thank you for
And
having me.
that concludes our questions for this evening. Thank you all for attending this event. As chair of our League's Forum Committee, I want to thank the members of the committee for all their contributions to make these virtual events possible. And a huge thank you to our League co-president and platform manager, Carol Pulliam, for making our virtual forums a success. One final note, ballots should begin arriving in the mail after October 15th. If you haven't received a ballot by October 22nd at the latest, contact the auditor's office at 360-679-7366. If you choose to mail your ballot, remember that it must be postmarked on or before November 2nd. There are also secure drop boxes located throughout the county where you can drop off your ballot. You can find one located near you. Go to elections@islandcountywa.gov. If you or someone you know has not yet registered to vote, you can register online until October 25th or in person at the auditor's office up to and by 8 p.m. on Election Day, November 2nd, 2021. Good night and be well.